Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of August 21st, 2022. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. It is a very busy, very active astrological week, and an important one as well. It is going to be at the end of the week that we are going to have a very powerful new moon. And part of what makes it so powerful, well, it has to do with the fact that it is going to be speaking with Mars in a conversation of tension with precision. It is this particular alignment that does suggest our energy, our intention, our desire for change. And for some, this may feel like frustration is especially heightened as well. Now, this is the energy of Virgo. It has to do with a few different things. When we just look at it as an energetic principle, of course, it's about understanding nuances, about analyzing. It's about being able to pay attention to detail and understanding that very fine line where you've done your research, you have understood deeply, and where it is that you want to affect the future. You do your best with what you understand and all that you have done, and make sure you do all that you can do, and then you surrender, you let it go. I think that this lesson of Virgo is going to be especially pronounced this week because it isn't just about that new moon, although it is a powerful one. But we've also got at the top of the week, the very beginning of the week, Mercury going into shadow, also in the sign of Virgo. But this is a little bit different because it is Mercury in Virgo that is considered exalted. It's a part of the sky, a sign that Mercury really likes to be in, one of its home signs. And it is this energy. As we have Mercury stepping into shadow, Mercury will immediately stand across the sky from Neptune and also speak in supreme harmony with Pluto. And this becomes a key and defining characteristic of this larger Mercury retrograde season. Consider that once we navigate forward, it is going to be at the end of September, beginning of October. That is when, as Mercury is slowing down to a standstill to go direct, that Mercury will return to where he is at the start of this week. And that is when, once we navigate further, that is when we will see the events of early this week differently in some way. However, that's also when, in the future, this alignment will be repeated. However, right now it moves rather quickly. We get to the end of September, beginning of October, and it's like Mercury just hangs tight this conversation over the period of a couple of weeks. So, of course, I'll be here to talk about it every step of the way, but it becomes important to pay attention to what is happening in your life as you begin this week, and also for the collective as well, because chances are we will understand events that start off the week differently in some way once we navigate a little bit further into the early weeks of the fall season. But understanding this connection, how Virgo energy is so magnified now, it is midweek that we have the sun moving into the sign of Virgo. So happy birthday to all the Virgos out there. And so you can see here that there is this focus that the universe has now in wanting us to pay attention, wanting us to understand nuances. Now, I do want to add another layer of understanding to this energy. It is that energy of Virgo that also has to do with healthcare. And there's a lot of different opinions, conflicting ideas, conflicting thoughts about that right now, as the CDC as well is opening things up, changing course. And there's fear for some people. And for some people, they feel like it couldn't come soon enough. Well, look, with Jupiter right now in Aries, it really is about going in brand new directions. So we were headed this way anyways, but I think that there's going to be more attention paid to what's happening in terms of healthcare, what's happening in terms of people's health as well. So we may see some of that. And again, that sense of conflicting and not necessarily on the same page type of information that may be out there. And I say that because I'm considering the fact that we've got that Neptune across Mercury, we've got Pluto trine. And so that Pluto trine can be really good because it does suggest transformation and things changing in a positive direction. But it's that Neptune opposition that can feel so uncertain right now. So I understand that some people, especially as we're beginning this week, there may be some fear or uncertainty for some, but other people are feeling quite strong and are feeling quite ready. So there's that divide playing out. And then, of course, we get to that particular new moon at the end of the week, and passions can feel like they're running very high at that time. So it becomes really important to be patient with yourself, be patient with others. Try not to stress yourself out. I know that's easier said than done, but Virgo energy, when not channeled correctly, can be an energy of stress. And how do you channel Virgo energy correctly? Well, you focus on the day, you focus on what's in front of you to do. It's the sacredness of the small rituals, the daily habits, the minute movements where life actually occurs. Life is actually not those really big moments, the big events, getting the big award, taking the big trip, right? Whatever you consider those big milestones or those big bucket list things. Those are wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I have loved crossing things off of my bucket list. You know that. You've come along the journey with me many, many times. However, the actual lived experience of life isn't necessarily those big moments. They're wonderful, but there are these small moments that ultimately affirm the thinking patterns that you have, how you think about yourself, how kind you are to yourself. It's those small words that you say day in and day out. It's the self-love you demonstrate in the small daily habits and rituals, and not judging yourself when you think you're not perfect, because the truth is it's never going to be perfect, and we are not meant to be perfect. But what we can do is pay attention. And paying attention, we're able to truly honor this present moment. And it is in the present moment, as the Buddha taught us, that true freedom and nirvana is found. It is only by being so immersed in the present moment, in our five senses, in what is happening right now, that we liberate ourselves from suffering. It is only in the present moment and being so fully immersed in the present moment that nirvana is found. And that is freedom from suffering, as the Buddha taught us. Life is suffering, but there's a way out of it. And the way out of it isn't the way out of life, because if you're here, it means that you've got more to do in this lifetime. It really is that simple. And so you're here because there's more to do, and yet you can do it so much more effectively if you allow yourself to be present for yourself. If you allow yourself to pay attention and free yourself of the possibilities of what could be, whether you think what could be positive, could be negative. I mean, it's wonderful to have hope, to look forward, but at the same time, peace is here. It is only being so immersed in the task that we truly liberate ourselves from thought patterns that ultimately don't affirm a wise and loving state of being. Now, that new moon energy, though, I have to say, I feel like it is this concentration, right? We already got Mercury in shadow. Virgo month begins, that concentration of energy because of the square of Mars. Now, Mars, of course, is newly in the sign of Gemini. Right around now, I should also be publishing the Mars retrograde special horoscope. So that's really exciting because we are headed there, right? It's right here. It's right around the corner. But what's especially exciting right about now with that Mars square, Mars in Gemini, Gemini is also a sign that's ruled by Mercury. It is a sign that also has to do with thinking processes, understanding, just like the energy of Virgo. However, Virgo energy embodies that knowledge. It feels, yes, as part of understanding nuances, whereas the energy of Gemini can get, if thinking way too much, a little bit too cerebral. It avoids being embodied, it avoids feeling. And so the fact that we've got Mars and Gemini squaring this new moon does suggest that some of us in our own lives are feeling conflicted about a matter, are like sort of double thinking around different possibilities and are not really sure the best way forward for us or what it is that we might really want to do. We may be getting a whole lot of other advice or gathering information or getting other opinions. And ultimately, it is this sense of having so many different perspectives that is throwing us off that balance of staying connected to our truth. Now, when I say our truth, there's different ways of understanding that. Of course, there is like an empirical, objective truth, but so much of what we call truth is ultimately subjective, and that doesn't make one better than the other. But it does mean that there are certain answers that are likely to lead you more towards a peaceful state of being, a present state of being, than others. And practicing those is a way, those things, those habits that ultimately ground you in the here and now is a way towards empowerment, because that is ultimately the higher lesson of Mars. Mars is always about self-knowledge, owning your power, to know yourself and act from that place. And where it is that self-knowledge leads us to act from that place in those small moments, that is truly when we start to align with mastery. The higher understanding of Virgo energy is mastery. It's what we repeatedly do that we become experts at. And so, what is it that you are giving those hours to? I think this is a moment of honesty that may surprise a lot of people. You can tell yourself you love doing something, you can tell yourself you want to do something again and again, but the truth is, look at what your actions are showing you. Look at how your thoughts are aligning with your actions or disconnected from your actions. That is self-knowledge that may be uncomfortable for some people under the light of this new moon, but ultimately can be tremendously empowering. Now, the other very big news this week happens in the middle of the week, and wow, this is the big one. This is Uranus stationary retrograde. Uranus this week is essentially standing still in the sky and is technically going retro on Wednesday. And yet, because Uranus is moving so slowly, it's like he's just there, as close to the earth as he's going to get, magnified in symbolism as well. Here's the thing with Uranus. Whatever you think is going to happen, whatever you think could happen, it ain't going to be that. That's what always happens with Uranus. That actually comes from Michael Luton, my dear friend, the living legend Michael Luton. He is somebody who said in a class that he did recently with Synchronicity University, he said, I want you to imagine all the absolute worst things that are going to happen with this Uranus transit that you might have coming up. The absolute worst. Just think it all. Just get it all out there. Because whatever you think, it ain't going to be that. That's not going to happen. That's the thing with Uranus. It takes you by surprise for a reason. It is that awareness that you didn't even see coming. That is part of the symbolism of Uranus. Now, Uranus for the collective in the sign of Taurus. Well, how are we going to be paying attention to money, the economy? I think that Uranus retrograde invites us to go within, but it's also a slowing down of energy. It's an internalization of energy. And so this invites us, on the one hand, I do think, if it feels like the economy isn't so steady, well, That may come into focus a little bit midweek, but ultimately, because this is a retrograde, it may feel like unpredictability with the economy. Feels like it starts to slow down a little bit, which will be welcome to some people out there. But on a more personal level, it has to do with the energy of Taurus, has to do with understanding what's worth the money and what isn't worth the money to you. It has to do with understanding what you value, and that includes what you value about yourself. Uranus is about helping us to see much more clearly where it is in the sign of Taurus we have wasted our money, our resources, or that we valued something that ultimately ended up being superficial and that just isn't working for us anymore. Uranus always brings the truth out. And with Uranus, sometimes it can really take you by surprise. That truth could come from within you. It can be external as well in your environment. But you can expect to feel the sense of finally seeing things clearly and saying, I'm doing it differently. I'm going in a different direction. This is no longer working for me. Being able to see it and accept it. Now, what's no longer working for you may ultimately be deeply personal. Like I said, the way you're thinking about a thing, the way you're understanding the nuances about a thing, that's going to come into focus now with all this very powerful Virgo energy this week that's emphasized. And yet, on a more personal level, it may very well relate to some practical circumstance where it is that we come to understand that we've gone as far as we're going to go on a particular path, and now we want to be free of this strife. Ruminating on something, thinking about something way too much, well, that is something to free yourself of now in a way that can be especially positive and especially liberating. Ultimately, Uranus invites us to be more ourselves. It was Jeff Wolf Green, right? Great evolutionary astrologer, Jeff Wolf Green, who said that Uranus is, and I'm paraphrasing here, an invitation to move away from who we've been conditioned to be in favor of who we've been created to be. I'm reminded of the conversation I had last week that I posted with Quan Tracy Cherry, where he was saying, what would it be like to move through life with the assumption that your soul already knows the plan, that you don't need to have all the details, you don't need to know all of it because the soul already knows. And so it becomes a lot more about trusting that. But I would also say, using the words of my Aunt Shireen that you've seen on my channel before, she likes to use the understanding of getting out of the way, right? I remember so many years ago when I first went to Mexico in 2012, and I just felt such a connection. I just felt like I am supposed to be here. I don't speak this language, but I got to learn this language. And it felt so daunting. And it still ain't perfect. If you speak Spanish and you've seen my Spanish on this channel, you know it ain't perfect all these years later. And yet I love the language still. I love learning about the language still and exploring it and speaking it. But I remember at the time when I was just first starting out, I was saying to her, like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. I never realized. And I remember she said to me, don't think of it as learning something new. Think of it as that wisdom is already within you. It's like you're just getting out of the way so that it can come forward. And I have found that advice to be so valuable in so many different contexts. And actually, now that I think about it, those times when I'm very impressed with how I speak Spanish are the times when I'm not even thinking about it. The times when I really am just relaxed and in the moment and enjoying and allowing it to come forward. Those are the moments of greater understanding and expression as well. And I think I'm going to remember that next time I have to speak Spanish to somebody. But Uranus ultimately is about truth. Going retrograde, it may feel for some out there like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Now I'm going to invite you to think about what was taking place for you last August. Because last August, we also had Uranus stationary retrograde. So it's possible that what was taking place for you last August, in some way, you'll be feeling that sense of wanting change and it may be related to a similar or exact situation. This is also about letting your feelings finally be known, letting the truth finally come out. I do want you to be careful about that though. Now, the reason I say that is because it is going to be on Saturday that we are going to have Venus square Uranus. So it's Venus, goddess of love. Romantic surprises really do not go as planned. Other people have very different ideas about love and pleasure and blessings and ease than you do. And what you may think is super romantic really isn't to that person. And so you do want to be mindful of this particular square energy because it's almost like really missing the mark, whether it is that you are wanting to take on things that you feel bring you joy. Now, of course, I want to remind you with Venus, if it is possible, it may be good to avoid like really big radical changes where it comes to your unique beauty expression, because the outcomes really may not be what you anticipate. You may just not like the outcome. You might change your mind. And if it's something that's kind of permanent, that can be more challenging. But I feel like a lot of people like frustrated with their lives, frustrated with what they really want and not having what they want, maybe feeling like love is not ideal in their life. They may go and decide to get a whole other haircut. Like, I have done that, to be very honest. I can't say that that's so unusual. It does happen from time to time for some people, right? And I remember distinctly one experience in the past where that was the case. That I decided I'm not ready to break up with dudes, so instead I'm going to go dye my hair. That hair color didn't last too long. And so I feel like some people may go through a similar experience as we get to the end of the week. So just be mindful of that because you may not like the outcome. And if it's just hair, as I like to say, it's just hair. It's fine. But if it's something of more consequence, like a tattoo, like a cosmetic procedure, that's where you do want to be mindful with this energy. Uranus likes to move quickly. So ultimately, this may just represent a moment, an outburst, a truth coming forward. And then you understand it and you move forward very quickly as well. Your taste may change very quickly, but so might what it is you believe that you want in all kinds of ways and different contexts as well. So again, the need to be patient with yourself as you navigate this time. Now, finally, we've also got Mercury on Friday. Mercury is going to change signs. Part of this Mercury retrograde season will be spent with Mercury in Virgo, as we discussed, but also with Mercury in Libra. It's interesting that a key characteristic of the retrogrades that we've had this year, they involve Mercury going back and forth between earth and air. I find this really fascinating. All celestial movements have their wisdom. All celestial movements build on each other as part of a larger unfolding. And I think that this is always true. And so we have here with Mercury, I feel like this represents, it's fine to think it. What are you actually living? That's one part of it. Part of the lesson of 2022 for a lot of us is to connect our thoughts with our actions, to think about how our thoughts are manifesting a reality, but at the same time, to be honest with ourselves about that. Where it's not always just about thoughts and manifestation, but thoughts and embodiment, which is a different thing. And I feel like that's part of the larger lesson of this year. And we may feel very aware of that lesson over the course of this particular Mercury retrograde season, since the sign of Virgo literally has to do with embodiment, the body itself. And so Mercury moves into the sign of Libra. This should be really interesting. Wherever Mercury goes, it's what we're talking about. And so the sign of Libra has to do with diplomacy. It has to do with relationships as well, personal relationships, how we understand partnerships of all kinds, business, but also romantic. And so there tends to be a renewed interest on the one hand in understanding relationship dynamics And so we may see some interesting ideas presented on that front, but also diplomacy may come into focus in some way as part of world relations. So we may see some of that take greater attention in the weeks ahead. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a very active astrological sky now, but it is also a sky that is so promising. New moons always bring new beginnings, and squares always bring activity. Squares say something is happening, some action is taking place, and that certainly is the case now. The action ultimately invites us to look at our lives with greater nuance and greater presence. It invites us to live the smaller moments, knowing that that's where life actually happens, as part of the pathway towards cultivating mastery. And mastery for the things that matter to us become that much more meaningful. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. Thank you for your love. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Now, higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents some truly incredible classes starting very soon. And as we begin this week, there's only about a week left to choose your tuition rate. As low as just $5 a class, an unheard of rate to learn from these incredible astrologers who are coming to Synchronicity University, and really special programs as well. Let's start with my friend Ursula Stockder. She is a Jungian analyst, and she is going to be teaching Jung, astrology, and tarot as only she can. Understanding tarot and your relationship to your tarot deck as a conversation with your unconscious. This is a very different way of cultivating a relationship with tarot from a Jungian perspective. She really is such an expert in this. She's such an incredible teacher. This really is a class to embrace if it is that you love tarot and want to learn more about it. And so you can learn a lot more about this class by going to synchronicityuniversity.com, where you will see detailed class descriptions so you know exactly what you're going to get over the course of this 5-week class for as low as just $5 a class with choose your tuition rate on for a very limited time, just about a week left to go with that. And I hope that you will join us at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents an incredible September speaker series with some of the most brilliant astrologers alive today. Some of my friends are coming back, and I'm so excited about this. And for a very limited time, you can choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class, a very unheard of rate for this caliber of teacher, but also these classes. We have some wonderful topics, wonderful teachers. I'm going to start with big dog Colin Bedell. So Colin Bedell is the Queer Cosmos account that you find on Instagram that's reaching hundreds of thousands of people. He's so brilliant, and he really explores understanding relational astrology. He's going to be looking at Venus and Mars and helping you to understand that in greater depth. My friend Helene from Heart House Astrology is going to be looking at Uranus in your chart, and she really is such a wonderful person to be exploring this, considering that she really does do astrology from that heart perspective. So I'm really looking forward to her class as well. My friend Yuridia Robles, now we co-wrote a book on Mayan astrology. However, this is a class on the part of fortune. She has widely taught around the world on the part of fortune. And so she's going to help us to understand the part of fortune differently than you have before. I tell you, it is about understanding the part of fortune as a destination, not just in and of itself. So this is very valuable. I hope that you will check that out as well. we have Nicole Garceau, and she is going to be teaching on a very specific degree theory, helping you to understand 0 to 29 degrees of any sign and how each degree carries a nuance that can help you to understand how a particular planet or point in your chart is speaking with greater depth and nuance. It's a wonderful predictive technique. It's very practical. You'll be able to apply it right away to see your chart differently. And as I mentioned earlier, Quan Tracy Cherry, so brilliant, a lawyer by trade, and you can tell because he's so academic as well. He's going to be looking at the raw material of astrology, of the signs, helping you to see the signs differently as well. So I hope that you will join us for a very limited time, just a little over a week left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents the one and only Acyuta-bhava Das. He is coming to Synchronicity University. I am so proud to have this caliber of astrologer at my school. Like, this really is the highest vision I had for my school, to make this caliber of astrologer accessible to the masses with choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class. To learn from Acyuta-bhava Das is really unheard of, and he's going to be teaching you about the mystical roots of astrology. You will see the signs and the planets and the houses differently, which will help you to see your chart differently from a more mystical perspective. And he really is the perfect person to teach this. He brings such a depth and layered understanding, a heart-centered understanding, a spirit-centered understanding to his astrology. And, you know, I just think he's one of the best astrologers out there. And so to have him at Synchronicity University really is such a treat. I hope that you will check it out. Again, there's just about a week left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, to learn from the one and only Acyuta-bhava Das, big dog astrologer, YouTube phenomenon, Acyuta-bhava Das of Nightlight Astrology. And you can go to synchronicityuniversity.com and see what each of those classes is about and choose your tuition rate. Sign up there. Links are in the description below. And by the time this publishes, I'm going to be heading to Denver. This is very exciting. I did transfer planes once in Denver, but never actually been in Denver. But I am part of the ISAR 2022 conference. This is very exciting. So I hope you'll check it out. I have 2 talks and other things I'll be doing as part of the conference. So I think we're going to have so much fun together. We finally are gathering. We will finally meet again. And I think that is such a treat. So join us. If you're anywhere near Denver, I am not going to have time to do consultations, but I am very happy to meet outside classes and hug and sign books and all of that good stuff. So I hope to meet you there. And if you can't join us in person, know that I have a Lilith workshop coming up, Black Moon Lilith workshop at isarastrology.org. And that is going to be a 4-hour workshop that is taught in November. And so you can click on the links in the description below, and there you can learn a lot more about that workshop as well. I look forward to meeting you there. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust, for all of it. I'm truly so grateful for it. And it'll be a great week. Enjoy.